Okay, this thing is rolling. I know it's been a while. Okay, so I'm going a little bit off the cuff today. I just had a great sales call with a church who's interested in Campaign Studio. Campaign Studio is my new church design subscription. It's built around the idea that churches need strategy and organization around campaigns for their communication. So sermon series, event launches, all those kind of things. That's not the point. I had a great conversation with them. It was really cool to see that we had very similar church DNA. It gets me excited just to talk about creativity in the church. And so, yeah, it was a good call. But the thing that I was really excited about thinking about was that there are churches who are seeing how creativity affects spiritual formation. And that's what I want to talk about today in this video. I've got a lot of projects going on. I like to share project videos on YouTube. One, it helps me get more work, helps me grow my business, take care of my family, love that. But it also gives me a lot of opportunities to work with churches all over the US. I've even gotten to work with a couple of churches overseas. All of this is cool. It's not really the point. I'm doing this off the cuff. I get super excited about connecting creativity to mission. And I think that's one of the most important parts about communicating in the church. So I'm a visual designer. I design sermon graphics and motion videos, lyric videos, all these different things. And I've been involved in creativity in the church for over 15 years now. You know, I started out as an electric guitarist at my home church back in South Carolina, where I grew up. I went to college and got a degree in audio production, but also spent, years getting a worship degree that I didn't actually end up getting because I switched to audio production in the end. Long story, super long story. I got a job as an intern at a church because I could do both video and graphics and lead music, and that led to me becoming the creative director of that church for a very long time. And now that I'm closer to 30, I don't know if I'm just getting more existential or if I am actually getting it. I think we'll figure that out here in the next few years. I've realized that the common thread through it all is that when I'm stoked about the mission of something, that gets my creative juices flowing. Some people get their creative juices flowing by the goal of making money for a client. Some people get it by being super inspired by something that they see. And I'm kind of that way sometimes. Like when I watch a movie that's really good, it always stokes that fire in me to write and make a really cool movie. Someday that'll happen. But for me, in my career, what I love getting to do is to translate vision. It's to take the vision and the mission of some place and translate it to something that's visual and real in some kind of way. And it's kind of funny, being a digital designer or shooting video that's digital. But there's something about Sunday morning gathering. We get to explore how creativity affects spiritual formation. First, let me prove to you that creativity does have an effect on spiritual formation. Where's my Bible? Let me move my notes from Sunday. First thing I think about is Genesis 1, verse 27. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. I think that one of the coolest things about the creation mandate is that we're made in the image of our creator. We're made to be little creators. I believe with all my heart, the 1,000 tiny little ways that we create, that we solve problems, that we make things better, that we make things look better, feel better, sound better. All of those things are this pursuit of beauty that I think is us pursuing our creator and to be like him. And I think that whether you call yourself a creative or not, there's probably some ways in your life that you're creative, whether that's the way that you make your home or the way that you solve problems at work. But for those of us who are in the church using creativity as leverage, we represent our creator well when we make things better. It's part of the way that we were made in the first place. Now, it's not hard to see when that goes off the rails. And I think it goes off the rails for church creatives when we don't tie our creative to the mission of the church. When we make things that just look good to look good, which is not a bad thing. It is that little creator thing. But I think that where it's super powerful, where it's super good, are those moments where we're able to really tie the mission of the church to our creative. And the way you can do that is you can talk to your pastor, understand the vision that they have for the mission of your church super clearly as you can, and then get super behind it. Here's why I think this is important. This is a passage I've definitely talked about on this channel before. So if you're kind of Rhett, you've read Colossians 3 before. Sorry. Paul exhorts the church and he says, if you have been raised with Christ, seek the things that are above, where Christ is seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. For you have died and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. A couple of things I'm thinking here. Christ is glorious. The word glory is like weight, but it's got this like public aspect to it. Like God displays his glory, right? And when we see his glory, we know that he is good. There's a display, there's a presentation a little bit, if I may be so bold. When you have been raised with Christ, the exhortation is to seek the things that are above. Set your mind on things that are above. How do we set our minds on things? Well, it comes through meditation. It comes from focus. And the thing about us humans is that we are very visually oriented. We pay attention to what we see. We think about the things that we see. And so I could make an argument just from there that it is important to a degree to focus on creativity because it makes things visual. A good pastor knows this. Like a good preacher knows this. A good preacher wants to preach in a way that is compelling. They want to proclaim the word in a way that when you hear it, you're going to listen to it. Here's what Paul goes on to say. Instead of what is earthly in you, it says, put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you. Instead of that, put on then holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. And if one has a complaint against one another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you also must forgive. So verses 12 and 13 gives you a bit of a mission. Put on, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, look like Jesus, and do it in community. He brings up that you're supposed to do this bearing with one another, loving one another. In verse 14, and above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. We're meant to be Christians in community, in spaces. That's why the church is a gathering. That's why we get together every Sunday morning. Hebrews 10:25, don't neglect the gathering as some are ought to do, but all the more as you wait for the day to draw near. So then here we go. You've heard me read this before. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms and hymns and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do, in word or deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. And then a little bit further down, whatever you do, work heartily as for the Lord and not for men, knowing that from the Lord you will receive the inheritance as your reward. You are serving the Lord Christ. I love when churches put an emphasis on excellence in their creativity, but the reason that I intentionally use a different word, I usually use the word effective. It's part of our tagline as a company, gospel-centered and effective. The pursuit of excellence all too often becomes a pursuit of doing the best that you can for you, right? Like you take a sense of pride in, well, I put excellence into it. And what Colossians 3 has to say is work hardly. You're working for the Lord. Go hard, go and do it. But I think that the even better option is to remind ourselves that all of the creative work that we're doing has an impact on spiritual formation, either because it's just simply on its own, you get to make something or do something that encourages somebody to love Jesus more, to set their mind on the things that are above, or just through the very communal aspect, you are taking part in something that is having an effect. Paul says so clearly, we need to sing. Singing by its very nature is creative. But he also says, set your mind on things above. Do these things in community. Have a mission together in community. All of the creative work of the gathering of the church needs to be oriented not just at excellence. Should be excellent. Should be focused on doing the best work that we can do for Christ, because ultimately the work that we're putting into our gathering is work for Christ. All of our creative efforts for the church should be aimed at spiritual formation, because it has an effect on our spiritual formation. When you see a sunrise, that's art that God himself is making, and it stirs you up in your spirit. I think that we've seen a lot of examples of this kind of thing feeling manipulative and salesy and like done for all the wrong reasons. And I think that that's because it gets tied not to the mission of the church or to the way that the Bible actually encourages us to worship. It gets unanchored from those things. And I would love to see us continually anchor it back to the word, the gospel, the goodness of Jesus as a tool to help us see Jesus better and better. That's actually one of the most impactful speeches I've ever heard when it comes to creativity in the church was by a pastor named Zach Hicks. I'll link him below. I might even be able to find a video of this session. He used the Bible to show how, as worship leaders, and so I'm going to extend this to creatives in general. If you're a worship leader on production, if you're a content creator, a video editor, those kinds of things, your goal is not necessarily to make a stained glass window, but to make glass windows that you can see the goodness of Jesus more clearly on the other side. I make the argument you can even make magnifying glasses that make Jesus's goodness, when it feels far off, so much bigger, so much clearer. You see it in all of its compelling glory. You don't have to work hard to show how good Jesus is, but it doesn't take a lot of work to poorly portray how good Jesus is in our art, in our singing, in our music, in the way that our lobby looks, in the way that the room that you're gathering in looks. It's either an empty box or it can be a garden for spiritual formation. That's a good idea for a book. I should think about that one. If you're still listening to this rant, thanks so much. Love that you're here. I want to be excited about thinking about what the Bible says about creativity. We were placed in a garden that was beautiful. In Revelation, John sees a garden city that's beautiful. I think that the pursuit of art and beauty in the church is a worthy, wonderful way to worship the Lord. And it's a way that we get to use our hands and our minds and our hearts to work for the good of the church. But it's only when your creativity is anchored to spiritual formation. That's why you got to be about the mission of your church, and you've got to be about the vision that your pastors have been given for your church's unique and local context. And I think that anybody who has a way to contribute to that, go for it. Make it so clear in your church that Jesus is good, he is worthy to be worshiped, and he's worthy of all of our effort. Just don't do it for its own sake. Do it because Jesus is so good. And then go and be like him in his image as a little creator. I really need to turn this into a blog and put some more time into thinking through the better ways to say this, because I'm sure there's better ways to say this. But if you're still watching this video and you're interested in these kind of thoughts, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if there's something that you've got a question about, anything that I can help you with in your church. If you're interested in the whole campaign studio thing, you can go to midwoodroad.com/campaign studio and learn more. I'd love to chat with you about it. Might be a great solution for your church, might not be. But how about this? Let's go read our Bibles, be encouraged by how good Jesus is, and just see how that impacts you in your creativity this week. Whether you're a worship leader going up on stage or if you're a content creator for the church, whatever that looks like, tie it back to how good Jesus is this week. And I think that you'll see that creativity does impact spiritual formation. I'll talk about this more in another video. I'm sure it'll probably come up. Anyways, I'll see you in the next video.